"Get out! You don't belong here!" The words cut through the crowded bank lobby like thunder, a voice raised in fury and arrogance, a voice that held no respect for dignity or humanity. And in that instant, everything froze. The customers waiting in line, the clerks behind their counters, the quiet hum of the air conditioner. Every single thing seemed to stop. But what nobody expected was what came next. Because this story isn't just about humiliation, it's about regret, revelation, and justice. Before I take you deeper into this powerful moment, make sure you hit that subscribe button, turn on the notification bell, and drop a comment below telling us where in the world you're watching from. Because what you are about to hear is not just a story, it's a lesson, an unforgettable reality, and you will want to be here when the next story drops. Now let's begin. The black veteran stood silently in his neatly pressed jacket, the creases on his shoulders sharp as if his pride had ironed them in place. His hands carried the weight of years of service, the scars invisible but deeply etched in every vein. He had walked into the bank with nothing more than a simple task: to deposit his check, the result of years of sweat, discipline, and sacrifice. But the teller's eyes did not see the years of courage, nor the flag he once saluted, nor the battles he endured. She saw only what her prejudice allowed her to see: a black man standing in a place she believed he didn't deserve. Her fingers trembled not from fear, but from contempt, as she took the check he handed her. With one cruel motion, a tearing sound echoed across the lobby, the sound of paper ripped apart, but in truth, it was the sound of something far greater being shredded: respect, dignity, humanity. Customers gasped. Some turned away as if pretending not to witness what had just happened. Others froze, unable to believe what they had seen. The veteran's eyes did not blink, did not falter, but inside, memories began to rush. Memories of times when he had been told he was less than others. Moments when doors were slammed, when opportunities were stripped, when uniformed sacrifice was dismissed because of the color of his skin. And yet he stood firm. The teller smirked as if victory had been claimed. But what she did not realize was that her action had lit a fire in a place she could never extinguish. Within minutes, whispers began to spread across the lobby. Strangers who had remained silent began to murmur. Some pulled out their phones, recording what had just happened. Others shook their heads in disbelief. The manager stepped forward, his face pale with discomfort, knowing that something irreversible had just taken place. The veteran did not raise his voice, nor did he retaliate with anger. Instead, he did something that carried far more power. He walked calmly to the center of the lobby, his presence commanding the room, his silence louder than any shout. And in that silence, tension built. Every eye followed him, every breath felt heavy, as though the walls themselves leaned closer to witness what would unfold. This was not just a man standing in a bank. This was a man carrying history on his shoulders. For every soldier who had fought, for every veteran dismissed, for every black man and woman humiliated in public spaces, he stood as a living reminder that dignity is not granted by others, it is owned from within. The teller's smirk began to fade as the weight of what she had done settled in. The check she tore was not just paper. It was proof of service, proof of years, proof of worth. She saw customers glaring, some whispering, others reaching for their phones. What she thought would be a moment of quiet humiliation turned into the spark of outrage. The veteran reached into his jacket pocket, pulling out not another check, but something that silenced the last murmurs of disbelief. A small, weathered case. Inside, a medal, one of the nation's highest honors. He placed it gently on the counter, the metal glinting under the harsh fluorescent lights. And then, without saying a word, he stood back, the teller's face drained of color. The manager's jaw fell open. Customers gasped. The weight of shame fell heavy on the entire bank, but none heavier than on the woman who had torn the check. She had not just humiliated a man, she had humiliated a veteran, a man who had risked everything to serve a country that had given her the privilege to sit behind that counter. And in that moment, regret washed over her. But regret is not forgiveness, and humiliation is not erased by apologies. The damage was done, and the consequences were set in motion. The video footage spread like wildfire. Within hours, social media carried the story. Voices rose in outrage, and news stations echoed the shame. The bank scrambled to contain the scandal, issuing statements, promising investigations, vowing accountability. But the people were not satisfied. They wanted justice, not words. The veteran, however, did not chase the noise. He did not bask in the attention. He carried himself with the same calm dignity he had displayed in the bank lobby. For him, this was not about revenge. It was about truth. As the days passed, the bank teller's life unraveled. Complaints flooded in, petitions circulated, protests formed outside the bank. She had thought her action was small, a private humiliation she could control, but the world had seen it, and the world did not forget. The veteran's story became more than just a viral moment. It became a symbol, a reminder of how prejudice still breathes in everyday places, how dignity can be torn apart in seconds, and yet how truth can rise stronger than hate. For weeks, the story dominated headlines. Leaders spoke about it, communities rallied, schools used it as a lesson, and through it all, the veteran remained the same, calm, steady, resolute. He did not need to scream to be heard. His story had screamed for him, and so the teller's regret deepened. What began as arrogance ended as ruin. She had torn a check, but she had destroyed her own reputation. She had dismissed a man, but she had revealed her own weakness. The veteran, however, walked away not broken, not defeated, but honored, not by her, but by those who saw him, who understood, who carried his story forward. This was not just an incident in a bank. It was not just a check torn in half. It was a mirror held to society, a reflection of injustice, a reminder that racism and humiliation still live in our world. But it was also a lesson that dignity, calm, and truth can overcome even the cruelest moments. And as the world moved on, one thing remained clear. The teller regretted her action, but the veteran never needed her apology. His story was bigger than her mistake. And if you're still watching this far, that means the story has touched you. These stories are not just entertainment. They are reminders of what people endure every single day. If you believe stories like this need to be heard, then hit that subscribe button right now, turn on the notification bell, and join this community where truth, justice, and redemption are told without fear. Because the next story might shock you even more. Don't miss it.